Nigeria Labour Congress program on trade, investment, sovereign debt, and decent work. I'm a member of the African Trade Union Network on Economic Transformation. And we have gathered here in Maputo to look at the issue of debt crisis and launch the African Trade Union Network for Economic Transformation. This is a statement that came out of our meeting in Maputo, Mozambique. On this day, 29th of August 2024. We, representatives of trade unions from across the African continent, have convened in Maputo, Mozambique for a workshop on the ongoing sovereign debt crisis on our continent, organized jointly by the African Regional Organization of the International Trade Union Confederation, ATUNET Africa, the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, FES, and the International Trade Union Confederation, ITUC. Debt crisis continues to spread to more countries on our continent, crowding out necessary social spending, dragging down our economies, and exacerbating political instability. In response to these challenges, we have launched the African Trade Union Network for Economic Transformation, ATUNET, a network of trade union affiliates charged with carrying forth the analysis and advocacy necessary to meet this moment. In a challenging economic and geopolitical moment, African workers must make their presence felt at the national, regional, and global level. Africa has asserted itself decisively in support of fiscal justice by taking leadership towards the UN Framework Convention on Tax, and the continent will host its first G20 in South Africa in 2025. African representation in the G20 and in the governance of the International Monetary Fund is growing. Yet, debt relief and transformative policies for economic transformation are not on the agenda. And Africa's wealth flows to world's financial centers while our economies stagnate. The economic shocks of recent years have been devastating. The COVID-19 pandemic created acute health crisis in our countries. Interest rates increases have raised the cost of borrowing, and war and geopolitical unrest has raised the price of certain commodities while disrupting the market in others. This was not a crisis of our own making. The current global development regime encourages borrowing to finance expenditures and exporting commodities to raise funds, and the simultaneous blows to national budgets, interest rates, and export prices have left countries around the globe reeling. Trade unions must deepen our engagement in debt issues, and ATUNET is our vehicle to do it. Workers have felt the impacts of this crisis. The hardest of the impacts have been felt by workers in Africa, as retrenchments and cutbacks have reduced pay, while prices have soared and services have declined. Women workers are disproportionately hurt by these changes, as they frequently work in public sector jobs, vulnerable to austerity, and rely more heavily on social services to enter the workplace at all. By connecting the struggles of workers to an analysis of power and our global financial architecture, we will be able to use the tools of trade unionism, advocacy, organizing, mobilizing, and social dialogue to promote policies that enable a new social contract, to promote policies that enable a new social contract, including a just transition, employment creation, rights at work, social protection, social dialogue, and women's empowerment. Since our last meeting, ITUC Africa has launched a campaign to reverse Africa's brutal dead body and promote transparency and accountability in this place. While many global leaders are looking away from the crisis that is the debt crisis, and financial institutions seek to bridge the gap with short-term solutions, more African nations are falling into default, and more African countries are rocked by open revolts because the people can no longer tolerate the burden of high taxes, low wages, and inadequate services. Therefore, today, at the inauguration of ATUNET, we resolve to deepen our work on debts laid out in the priorities emerging from our 2023 workshop and the launch of our debt campaign in November by building capacity at the national level, engaging in strategic, evidence-based advocacy, and building alliances towards creating a social movement. Amandla Awetu, a Peter Continua Victoria Azata. Viva Africa. Viva ATUNET.